This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report, with part 2 of our conversation about women who survive sexual harassment and assault and speak out. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.
On Wednesday, Time magazine announced the 2017 Person of the Year goes to the women who've spoken out against sexual assault and harassment, sparking an international movement.
It calls the group the Silence Breakers, includes Hollywood actresses, journalists, farm workers, hotel cleaners, women who want to remain anonymous, and women who are willing to be named. For more, we continue with our conversation with Tarana Burke. She is the founder of the Me Too movement, who coined that term. Millie Treviño is with us from Palm Springs, California. Millie Treviño-Sauceda. She is one of the founders of the National Alliance of Women Farm Workers. And Alicia Garza joins us from Berkeley, California, with the National Domestic Workers Alliance, co-founder of Black Lives Matter. In part 1 of our discussion, we talked about this incredible moment on the cover of Time magazine. 6 women, some famous, others not, one not even named, but who have all spoken out against sexual harassment and assault. This at a time when President Trump falsely put out that he was going to be named Time Man of the Year, a man who is president of the United States, who has been accused by at least 16 women of sexual harassment or assault. I wanted to start with Alicia Garza about what this moment means, especially for the not famous, the people you represent, for domestic workers who suffer violence in the places where they work. I mean, some people go to work and then they go home and that's their sanctuary. But these mainly women, mainly black and brown women, have to go into people's private homes. Talk about the dangers there and how you organize and what you recommend to people, how they can remain safe.
Absolutely. So some of the big dangers are that, first, these women are working in homes by themselves. This work is incredibly isolating. They're not working in offices with other people. They're very much working in someone's home by themselves, outside of the public eye. The other big danger that we see is that oftentimes this industry itself is really what we call the wild, wild west. There's not a lot of regulations or clear protections for women in this industry, and really not a lot of clarity about where do you go to report violence or abuse when you've experienced it. And so what we think is necessary right now is a couple of things. One, we think it's important to make the laws clearer and laws that don't further criminalize survivors, but instead provide a confidential place to be able to share your story and to know that there will be some follow-up and accountability that happens from that. The other big thing, though, is that I think before we start to talk about legislating solutions, we also have to talk about changing culture. The fact of the matter is this type of violence, this type of harassment is something that's seen as normal. It's seen as what happens when you're just being one of the guys. And in fact, there's a lot of questioning that happens to survivors, particularly those who are low-wage workers, immigrant women, black and brown women, about whether or not they actually experienced what they experienced. And so what that tells us is that the culture that we live in very much supports and normalizes this kind of violence and behavior towards women. And so unless we're able to change that, then it means that laws will continue to be ineffective because there's a big gap between what we believe to be normal and common sense and then how we actually deal with that. So we think that both of those things need to come together.
Tarana Burke, can you comment on what Alicia said, specifically what kind of conversation needs to happen? How can the culture change?
Well, I think the culture changes. One, we have to start with young people, right? There should be a conversation about comprehensive sex education in schools where we start talking about consent and boundaries and what respect looks like between genders or between individuals at a very young age. And I just imagine what it looks like if you layer that conversation every year, if that's required for young people. By the time they graduate high school, you have young people who have been hearing since they were children about what consent is, about respect, right, about boundaries. So I think it's really important that we start very young. I also think that we have to shift this conversation. I've said this many times, from talking about individual people. These are systemic, problems that we're looking at. This sexual violence is so pervasive that it's not just about individual monsters who are rising up. It's about a culture that's been created that allows these men and women and whatever perpetrators to behave in the way that they do. And so it's not just, I think when we individualize it and start talking about how these individuals are bad people, then it takes away from like what Alicia was talking about, the culture that's created that allows these people to do what they do.
And Millie Treviño-Sauceda, you are with the National Alliance of Women Farm Workers, one of the 6 women on the cover of Time magazine. It's Taylor Swift, Ashley Judd, the famous high-profile women, anonymous 6th woman pictured in the company of former Uber engineer Susan Fowler, lobbyist Adama Iwu, and Isabel Pascual, who's a strawberry picker and an immigrant from Mexico, whose name was changed to protect her identity. You have worked in the fields. What do you tell women? How do women protect themselves? Is it about laws? What are the safe places they can go? How much retaliation do they face?
Thank you for asking that question. Or questions. It's very easy to say this. We face harassment on a daily basis, and we're talking about, this is about farm worker women. As a farm worker woman, I was sexually harassed, and because I silenced myself because of the taboos and because I knew I was going to be blamed, it made it worse. So I became much more vulnerable. That meant that I was harassed several more times. So what we do in this movement is to really talk about in what way we are supporting each other, how that we're not alone, that it's very, very hard to even talk about the issue. I know we know that's very shameful, but we really need to make sure that we have the conversation. We do it in very different ways. We do use theater skits, we use art, we use conversational in the kitchen, in the dining room, where we can talk and confidentially, and we give each other some support. And then we make sure that the agencies are there to support the work that we're doing, so that the women can feel safe, and that we just give them the support that they need. At a national level, what we're doing is trying to make sure that we bring visibility. We've been doing this for more than 20 years. And thank you that this is coming to a part where we're going to start working together, where we're saying this is enough. We need to be in solidarity. We need to work together, all different industries. Women that, because yes, there's a lot of privilege that we have created for some people, and they feel that they can continue, abusing, and we just need to work together. Farm worker women are speaking out, but that doesn't mean that it's become easier. It's become harder because we are talking about things that we were not used to talk about before.
I want to thank Alicia Garza of the National Domestic Workers Alliance and Millie Treviño-Sauceda of the National Alliance of Women Farm Workers. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh.